Hello everyone and welcome back to Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP. I'm also going to talk a lot about the banks. So Treasury Secretary Yellen says U.S. government will take any steps necessary to remain the most dominant. Now, this is the same lady who doesn't care about adding trillions of dollars in debt to the national debt. And on top of that, the thing that really pisses me off about what she did was when the banks were collapsing and she's telling people, put your money in the bank, trust in the bank. Why would she say that? Well, it's because she works for the banks. The conflict of interest with these policymakers is ridiculous. Janet Yellen has made at least $7 million from speaking fees, records show. And where did that money come from? Goldman Sachs, Barclays, Citadel, USB. The list goes on and on. If you're going to work for the U.S. Treasury, work for the U.S. Treasury. Don't go to work for the banks. I feel she didn't care about leading people back to the bank. And if it fell, so what? So what if their money goes up in flames? You know, people are starting to realize that every person in this government is working against them. And you know, the banks show it now. Bank run in slow motion continues. Deposits at U.S. banks fell by $76.2 billion last week, even before tax payments, indicating the financial system remains fragile after a string of bank failures. The drop was mostly at large and foreign institutions, but they also fell at small banks because people are waking up. They're starting to pull their money out of the bank. On top of that, you have inflation raging on. People want to offset that. How do you do that? You take the money out of the bank that's never going to make you any money, period, and put it into something that's going to enrich you, like crypto. Other people are investing in gold and silver because they don't trust the narrative. $7 trillion of U.S. bank deposits are uninsured. You know, the fall of SVB was a wake-up call for a lot of people that had a lot of money in the bank, because you're only insured up to $250,000. So most of the people that had large amounts of money in the bank probably said, well, the bank's safe, it's never going to collapse, and if it does, I'm insured for my money. Then they realized that they're not quite as insured as they thought they were, and they figured out that the banks aren't as safe as they thought they were either. That could be another reason we see money leaving the bank on a daily basis. Then there's this. If you have any amount of money in the bank, you should definitely listen to this.
It should be accessible when people need to know, but I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim. Right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do. That we want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system.
Now, did you hear that guy giggle when they talked about confidence in the bank? If they don't have confidence in the bank, you shouldn't have confidence in the bank either. And you know, these are the same people that try to hide everything from the public. You know, once a bank starts collapsing, most people already see what's coming, but they don't warn anyone. They just let it all fall apart. Then there's this.
I wondered whether there are some market tests of whether you're being heard. And I think about TLAC. So TLAC should respond to good and bad news about the institutions. And it's really important. I mean, it's a little bit conflicted, right? I mean, it's important that people understand they can be bailed in, but you don't want a huge run on the institution. But they're going to be. And it could be an early warning signal to the FDIC and the primary regulators when these things happen. And there may be some other prices. This is similar to what Jay was saying in the market, that you can tell whether people understand how the who's going to be protected, who isn't going to be protected. It would be, I think, an interesting study to look at the evolution of market prices in a situation like.
Now, when they're talking about bail-ins at the FDIC, you can bet that's going to happen at some point. And I've been trying to wake up as many people as I possibly can before it's too late, because once the banks start collapsing, it's going to be too late. You know, at some point, you're going to go to the bank and maybe the door's locked, like we see happening in other countries. The banks are not safe. You know, people tend to forget that we just had a bank collapse recently. Other banks are on shaky ground. But people start to get trust back. They start to think, oh, well, you know, the banks, that happened because of crypto. It did not happen because of crypto. It happened because these banks are failing in the background and no one's warning you. Then there's this. So the reason why XRP is suppressed by the SEC and everyone else is because it actually works. XRP is the only cryptocurrency that is simple, fast enough, and smart enough to actually be used in real life. Ethereum and Bitcoin are being hyped by the big banks so they remain in power. Now, Ethereum and Bitcoin were never an option. You know, Bitcoin maxis will always try to include Bitcoin in every single thing they see going on. You know, early on, they tried to say it was going to be the biggest part of the new financial system. It's not even going to be included in it. But XRP is going to. And I think what's really going on is they wanted to delay XRP long enough so that they could come up with a solution to it. But there is no solution. Ripple holds the patent for ODL. Never forget that. Was the lawsuit against XRP influenced by JP Morgan? Now, we all know it was. But I think JP Morgan, their problem is they want to have a solution that allows them to continue making money. Ripple cuts down on a lot of the fees that happen at a bank. And once those fees are gone, the bank makes less money. That's the reason that XRP and Ripple is such a threat to JP Morgan. So Coins.ph supports Bank of America, Citibank, JP Morgan, along with 75 others via Ripple ODL. Now, a lot of the time, if not directly, but through partnerships, these banks are utilizing RippleNet, and they're utilizing XRP for on-demand liquidity. But JP Morgan, I think, loves the technology, wishes he would have created the technology, so he wants to use it but still make money. And now along the way, they're just delaying everything else through the SEC. But you know, at any moment, that judge could come out and rule in favor of Ripple. That would change the entire game. Because all of a sudden, XRP would have regulatory clarity. Every single bank would be able to use it on a daily basis. That's what we're waiting for as XRP investors. Then there's Swift. So Swift is the past, RippleNet is the future, XRP greatest digital asset for payments. What we're doing and executing on a day-by-day basis is in fact taking over Swift. Brad Garlinghouse said that. And Swift also wants to stay relevant. But I always said, you know, year over year, Ripple is going to take more and more business away from Swift until Ripple is the new Swift. And I think other people notice it as well. MasterCard CEO teases CBDC panel. Swift may not exist in 5 years. And I think some people realize that Ripple is a much better technology. I still think Ripple and Swift are going to work side by side somehow in the future. They're not just going to let Swift disappear. And if they don't utilize Ripple or XRP, Swift will be gone. Because you're not going to compete with on-demand liquidity. The biggest crypto bull cycle is upon us. Now, everybody always says the same thing. They always say, this is it. This is the moment. The moment is definitely coming. But I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we still have to get some big catalyst to set off the next run. What could that be? Ripple winning against the SEC. That could easily spark the next run. And once Ripple takes off, it's taking all these other utility-driven coins with it. It'll probably pull Bitcoin with it at some point as well. But on top of that, you always got to keep in the back of your mind, you know, look at what Ripple is actually out there doing right now. It's opening up all those corridors. At some point, XRP is going to flow on a daily basis. Anybody who still believes in previous cycles and market caps is fooling themselves, because I don't think the future it's going to matter what the market cap is. When you're moving trillions and trillions of dollars, I still think XRP is easily going to surpass 589. It just depends on how long you could continue holding it. I don't think anybody should ever sell their XRP. There's so many options popping up here and there. You know, early on, we're starting to see them now, where you could borrow against your crypto. You could earn passive income from it. This way, you could continue holding your XRP till it hits those high predicted prices that everybody's seeing. The reason you bought your XRP was maybe because you heard the 10K narrative. Maybe you bought your XRP because you heard the 589 narrative. Or maybe it's because somebody said there's going to be a buyback at some point. Whatever the narrative was that made you buy your XRP, hold on to it, because nobody knows where it's going in the future. I do know this, though. You can't move a lot of value and be sitting at a dirt cheap price. It has to be high priced. With that said, I'm going to wrap up today's video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you watching my videos. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.